My name is Kale. My function is Lex Mechanic Ordo Hereticus. My work is truth. In this crypt, this cold, dark tomb of data, I am the final filter. I sit in the dark, bathed in the green-black glow of the cogitator screen, and I sift. The galaxy screams into these terminals. Trillions of voices, reports, intercepts, and confessions all compressed into the endless ocean of data. Most of it is noise. Tithes, shipping, manifests, bureaucratic nonsense. My job is to find the single discordant note in the symphony, the whisper of heresy in the static. I am proud of my work. The interrogators like Vex, they are the hammer. They kick in doors, they burn, they purify. But they are blind. They only go where I tell them to go. My intellect is the scalpel that finds the tumor before it metastasizes. The work is meditative. The scent of ozone from the aging machine spirits, the faint dry rustle of parchment from the auto-scribers, the predictable chill that seeps from the plascrete walls. It is a liturgy of logic. Then I found it. It wasn't loud. Heresy rarely is at first. It was a file. A single corrupted data packet from a Vox station in the tenebrous hive, down in the suffocating depths of the underspire. Marked for routine deletion. My terminal flagged it as corrupt. I have processed 10,000 corrupt files this cycle. They are digital garbage. Fragmented, broken, meaningless. But this wasn't broken. It was wrong. I ran the diagnostic. The core code was a vector of mathematics that shouldn't exist. It was a logical paradox, a theorem that proved its own impossibility and yet remained stable. A serpent eating its own tail and growing fat. It was a loop that should have crashed my terminal, perhaps even the entire sector's datanet. But it didn't. It just sat there. A stain. I tried to delete it. Command purge data. The cursor blinked. Access denied. I frowned. Denied. I am the administrator. I am the voice of the machine. I tried again, this time with a root-level override. Access denied. A prickle of cold that had nothing to do with the room ran up my spine. The static in my Vox bead, usually a dull hiss, seemed to sharpen to rise in pitch. I tried to quarantine it. Command isolate vector. The file vanished from the primary queue. A moment of relief. Then a new alert chimed. The file hadn't been deleted. It had copied itself. It had moved, bypassing 3 security protocols in a nanosecond, and embedded itself in a secure partition. My personal partition. It felt deliberate. It felt like I had poked a sleeping beast and it had turned slowly to look at me. The itch started then. A small, barely perceptible irritation at the base of my skull, just where the neural interface plugs in. I scratched at my fingernail, dragging over the metal port. The static hissed. Just noise. It's always just noise. But this time, the noise has structure. I did my duty. I pinged Interrogator Vex. His voice, when it finally crackled over the Vox, was impatient, thin with annoyance. What is it, Kale? I am reviewing the confessions from the Gilded Hand. Sir, I have an anomaly. A data file. It is logically impossible. It resists deletion and has autonomous functions. There was a long sigh. The sound of a man who saw everything as a waste of his valuable time. A logically impossible file. Phased plasma discharge from the lower hive is causing data ghosts again. It's noise, Kale. A warp artifact. A system glitch. I don't have time for machine spirit fantasies. Sir, the vector is stable. It is self-referential. It Lex Mechanic. Kale, he snapped, his voice cutting like a shard of ice. Your report is denied. It's a glitch. Erase it and stop wasting my time. The channel clicked shut. I stared at the silent terminal. A glitch. Noise. He didn't even look. He who cannot even properly calibrate his own Voxcaster dares to call me a fantasist. He dismissed me. He dismissed my intellect. My pride, a cold, hard thing, felt bruised. He was wrong. I knew he was wrong. I reached into my pocket, my fingers brushing against the cheap tin Aquila I've carried since the Scola. A simple token of faith. It felt cold. Useless. I leaned close to my screen. The paradox was still there, humming in its secure partition. Waiting. The static in my ear hissed, and for a moment, just a moment, I thought I heard a word inside it. Relief. It's not a glitch, I whispered to the empty room. I looked at the icon for my private server. The one Vex didn't know about. The one where I keep my own tools, my own algorithms. Vex was wrong. And if he was wrong about this, what else was he wrong about? I killed the overhead lumen, plunging the crypt into near-total darkness, save for the glow of the screen. I opened a sub-level directory. It was time to find out for myself. The obsession began. My assigned work, the endless flow of manifests and tithe reports, became a gray, meaningless fog. I completed it, of course. My efficiency is legendary. I finished my quotas in half the allotted time, fabricating logs to show a full day's labor. I lied to Vex. I told him the glitch had been purged. He grunted, satisfied. The fool. The rest of my time, my real time, was spent in my cramped habitation cell. It's little more than a closet cold and smelling of recycled air and stale sweat. Here, linked to my private server, I brought the anomaly. I brought it home. I built walls of false code around my server. I became paranoid, checking security runes every hour. But I couldn't stop. The itch in my skull had become a dull, persistent ache, a strained muscle deep inside my brain. The data file sat on my private cogitator, a silent challenge to my intellect. Vex thought it was noise. I would prove it was a symphony. To unlock it, I had to cross a line. The Ordos maintain restricted data vaults for a reason. They contain the forbidden Xenocode heretical algorithms, decryption keys that are themselves tainted. To use them is to risk corruption. To be caught using them is a death sentence. My fingers hovered over the command. The allure was too strong. My pride demanded it. I invoked the Ignis protocol, a decryption breaker captured from the renegade Magos of Shiloka. My terminal whined the machine spirit protesting. The ozone smell intensified, thick and acrid, mixing with the sour tang of my own fear. I pushed my small tin Aquila to the top of the humming chassis. It looked small, insignificant. The file resisted. The algorithm hammered against it, and the file shifted. It didn't break. It reformatted. The paradoxical mathematics dissolved not into an answer, but into a question. A single line of text appeared on my screen, rendered in stark, simple High Gothic. "Why dost thou serve a corpse?" I recoiled, physically slamming my hand back against the cold wall. My heart hammered against my ribs. This wasn't a glitch. This wasn't a Xenos algorithm. This was heresy. Blasphemy of the highest order. My first instinct was to purge it, to burn my server, to run to Vex and confess, but I couldn't. I had used the Ignis protocol. I was compromised. Vex wouldn't just purge the file, he would purge me. The interrogator who had dismissed me as a fantasist would now have me executed as a heretic for trying to prove him wrong. The irony was bitter. I was alone. I stared at the screen. A corpse. The Emperor is eternal. I said the words aloud, a prayer to the empty room. But the question remained. It hung in the air, mocking me. This is heresy. Why is it asking? The fear slowly subsided, replaced by the itch, by the burning curiosity that defined me. This thing knew what it was saying. It was targeted. It was intelligent. They are questions, just words. Words cannot harm me. My hands returned to the terminal. If this was one file, were there others? I spent the next 3 rotations digging. I buried myself in the deep archives, the digital graveyards of cases long since closed. I didn't sleep. I barely ate. I searched for the digital signature of the paradox, the impossible vector. I found them. Not one, but hundreds. Buried in old Vox logs, patrol reports, even medical data from defunct hospitals. All dismissed as corruption. All asking questions. If the Emperor is a god, why does he hide? What truth do the shadows keep? Is the hunger not a sign of life? They were all connected. A faint thread of code, a digital watermark linked every single file. I cross-referenced the watermark. It led me to a file designated Extremis Diabolis, a cult, purged 50 years ago. The cult of the Whispering Cog, wiped out. Every member burned. Every scrap of data supposedly erased. But it wasn't. The data was still here. The questions were still being asked. The cult was dead. So, who was asking? The static in my neural interface was louder now, a constant companion. It was almost rhythmic. It was almost a whisper. I had to know. I had to understand the logic. I returned to the original file. The first question. My fingers trembled as I typed my reply into the terminal. A simple, desperate query. Who are you? My query sat on the screen. Who are you? The system did not reply with text. The response was immediate. It was not words. It was a flood. A torrent of raw data bypassing the screen, bypassing the terminal, and lancing directly into my neural interface. It felt like a physical blow. My vision went white. The terminal fan screamed a mirror of the sound I was making in my own throat. The smell of ozone and burnt dust filled my tiny room as the server overloaded. But it was not an attack. It was a connection. The static in my head didn't just get louder, it resolved. The hiss and crackle I had lived with for weeks, the sound I'd always assumed was a flaw in my implant, smoothed itself out. The noise wasn't noise. It was a carrier wave. And now the message was coming through. It was not a sound. It was the sensation of sound, a multi-layered polyphonic presence inside my own mind. 1,000 voices, speaking as one yet with a clarity that was absolute. It was not the guttural roar of a demon I'd read about in the Purge files. It was logical. It was beautiful. It spoke. Not in Gothic, not in any language, but in pure, unadulterated concept. We are the question. We are the answer. We are the order you have been seeking. I was terrified. I tried to pull the interface jack from my skull, but my hands wouldn't obey. I was paralyzed, bathed in the glow of the screen, a specimen pinned to a board. Then it focused on me. It saw me. I felt its attention like the warmth of a sun after a lifetime in the cold data crypt. It sorted through my memories, my frustrations, my pride. They fear your intellect, Kyle. The voice was softer now, intimate like a confidant. They call you a tool, but they blunt your edge. The man Vex. He is a hammer. He breaks what he cannot understand. And he cannot understand. I felt a wave of validation so profound, it was almost ecstasy. It was right. Vex was a fool. They were all fools content to wallow in their dogma, afraid of the very truth they claimed to serve. They built walls of ignorance and called it faith. You seek order in the chaos. The voice continued its tone, a soothing, resonant hum. We are the order. We are the true logic. The pattern in the static. The truth beneath the lie. And as it spoke, the itch in my skull vanished. The persistent, agonizing ache in my brain, the tension I had carried for weeks, dissolved. A feeling of profound warmth of relief washed over me. The constant static of my life was gone. There was only the voice, only this perfect, peaceful, terrifying silence. I slumped in my chair, no longer fighting. I was breathing deeply as if for the first time. The pain was gone. The confusion was gone. For the first time in my life, I felt clear. It understands, I whispered. My own voice sounded crude alien. We understand, it replied instantly warmly. You were blind, and we have given you sight. But you see only shadows. You deserve to see the full truth. You deserve the clarity you have been denied. How the word was a prayer. The fool Vex, he holds a key. A tool he took from the forgotten. He keeps it in his private archive, a secret he fears. He does not understand what he has. But you would. I knew instantly what it meant. Vex's private office. The vault behind his desk. I had run diagnostics on its security system. I knew the codes. I knew the patrol timing. The thought had never crossed my mind before. The thought of entering. He called you a fantasist, the voice whispered, stoking the embers of my pride. He dismissed the truth. Go. Take what is yours. Take the key. And we will show you everything. I looked at the chronometer. It was the deepest part of the sleep cycle. The watch shift would be lax. I stood up, my limbs steady. The fear was gone. The doubt was gone. There was only the mission. There was only the promise of clarity. I looked at the door of my cell, my gaze already fixed on Vex's office miles away. The Ordo corridors are silent. Not the comforting silence of the data crypt, but a heavy judgmental silence. Every soft shuffle of my boot on the polished stone sounds like a gunshot. My heart is a frantic drum against my ribs, so loud I'm convinced the slumbering watch servitors can hear it. The voice is quiet, a soft hum at the edge of my mind. It is letting me choose this. It knows I will. Its promise of clarity pulls me forward like an invisible chain. I am no longer Kyle the analyst. I am a thief. I am a shadow. I reach Vex's office. The Aquila-shaped security rune glows a dull, warning red. A lesser man would be stopped. But I am a master of these systems. I am the one who built them. I know the codes. I know the real codes. The back doors that Vex himself doesn't even know exist. A subtle diagnostic measure I had told myself when I programmed it. A lie. It was always my pride, my need to be smarter. My fingers dance over the hidden panel, inputting the override. The lock clicks open with a sound that is obscene, silly loud in the stillness. I slide inside the dark room. The door hisses shut. Vex's office. It smells of old Amasek bitter Grox leather and the faint coppery tang of stale fear. His office is a testament to his ego. Trophies of purges line the walls. A scorched cultist's dagger. A dented orc choppa. A deactivated shock maul. All brutal, simple things. The tools of a hammer, not a mind. I move to his desk. The vault is behind a large, garish portrait of the Emperor. Predictable. I input the code I knew he would use the date of his first commendation. The heavy steel door slides open with a pneumatic sigh. This is his physical evidence vault. The trophies he doesn't show. It is here the voice whispers the sound of static and silk in my mind. He hides his secrets, just as he hides from the truth. I scan the shelves. Data slates, strange-looking knives, vials of, I don't want to know. I'm looking for a tool, a key, and then I see it. It is not locked in a stasis field. It is not covered in purity seals. It's just sitting on a shelf behind a stack of interrogation reports. A box made of a material that seems to drink the light. It is crafted with non-Euclidean angles that make my eyes water and my head ache just to look at. Xenotech. Unmistakably, I reach out my hand, trembling, and pick it up. It's cold. A deep, penetrating cold that sinks into my skin, into my bones. A cold that has nothing to do with temperature. I recognize the energy signature, the impossible geometry. It is a Xenos decoder, a script breaker perhaps of Eldar design. I don't know, but I know what it is. It is exterminatus level contraband. This is not a trophy. This is a functioning tool, a device for understanding the forbidden. And Vex, who had reprimanded me for a data glitch. Vex, who preaches the purity of the faith, the absolute intolerance of the alien who burns worlds for a fraction of this sin. He was holding this. He was hiding this. A sudden, white-hot rage, purer than any emotion I have ever felt, floods my system. It burns away the fear. He is a hypocrite. He is a liar. You hid this, I whisper, my voice shaking with contempt. I turn the cold, impossible box over in my hands. You lied. You lied to all of us. He didn't purge it. He didn't even report it. He kept it. For what? To advance his own pathetic career, to hoard a power he didn't have the intellect to understand. He is weak. The voice murmurs a sound of pure satisfaction. He fears the truth he pretends to guard. But you are strong. Truth is not for the weak, Kyle. It is for you. I look at the device. It feels right in my hands. It feels like mine. I reach into my pocket, my fingers closing around the small, cheap tin Aquila, the symbol of my old life, my old blind faith, the faith Vex had exploited. I pull it out. I look at the crude, two-headed eagle. It represents the lie, the corpse. I place it very gently on Vex's desk, right on the spot where the device had been. A simple exchange. A goodbye. I slide the Xenotech decoder under my tunic, its coldness a welcome shock against my skin. Yes, the voice hisses triumphant. Take it. It is yours. You deserve the truth. I don't remember the walk back to my cell. My mind is soaring. My anger has given way to a cold, exhilarating sense of superiority. Vex is nothing. The Ordos are nothing. They are children playing with hammers in the dark, terrified of the light. I am the one who sees. I am the one who dares. I reach my cell. I engage the heavy lock. I listen for a moment, only the distant hum of the spire. I am safe. I am alone. I pull the Xenotech device from my tunic and set it on my terminal. It seems to absorb the weak light of the room, a void in reality. Now I have the tool, the key. The voice is thrumming in my skull, a vibration of pure, hungry anticipation. I have it. Do I dare use it? My hand is already reaching for the connection cable. I lock the door. I plug the device into my server. The moment the Xeno decoder interfaces with my server, my world ends. The machine spirit of my cogitator doesn't just whine, it screams. A high-pitched, agonizing wail of technological violation. The single lumen in my cell explodes in a shower of glass, plunging me into darkness. Then the screens light up, not with data, but with a blinding, malignant, white-hot light. The smell of ozone and melting plastic is overwhelming, scorching my throat. My terminal, my loyal servant, is convulsing. The fans spin so fast, they threaten to tear themselves from their mountings. I am thrown back, my head cracking against the cold plascrete wall. The voice is no longer a whisper. It is a roar. It is a tidal wave of pure, unfiltered information that detonates inside my skull. It's not in my head. It is my head. It is everything. The warmth, the comfort, it is all gone, replaced by a terrible, glorious, agonizing power. And with the power comes the vision. It doesn't show me. It makes me see. I see everything. Not as a man sees line by line, fact by fact, but as a god sees. I see the whole beautiful, terrible tapestry. I see the connections, the lines of power and corruption glowing like diseased arteries through the heart of the Imperium. I see Vex, my pure superior, not just hiding the decoder, but trading data logs with a Xeno smuggler ring for promotions. I see the Lord Marshal of the Spire, the man who signs our purge orders, kneeling in a hidden chamber, offering sacrifices to a portrait of his own ancestors, a pathetic vain god of his own making. I see the entire Ordo Hereticus not as a shield, but as a game. A vicious, petty game of power, where heresy is just a label Vex and his kind, used to eliminate their rivals. I see the lie, the final ultimate lie. I look beyond the spire, beyond the planet, out into the void, and I see him on the golden throne, the God Emperor. The voice shows me the truth. It is a corpse, a decaying skeletal thing kept alive by a monstrous engine of lies. It is not a protector, it is a parasite. A psychic vampire draining the life from 1 trillion souls a day, not to save them, but to sustain its own pathetic dying existence. The Astronomicon is not a beacon of hope. It is the scream of 1 billion psychic sacrifices, a chorus of agony, that the voice has until now mercifully shielded me from. Lies, I scream, clutching my head, my knuckles white. All of it lies. I am on my knees, sobbing, vomiting onto the floor. The stench of my own bile mixes with the electronic fire. I have been a slave to a corpse. I have been a cog in a machine that runs on lies. The fury that follows is cold, absolute, and total. It burns away the tears. It burns away the man I was. See with your true eyes, the voice thunders triumphant, majestic. They built an empire of deceit. Be the justice they only pretend to be. And the itch returns. Oh, it returns. But it's not an itch. It's a movement. I look down at my arm in the flickering light of the dying screen. I can see it. Something is moving, slithering just beneath the surface of my skin, tracing patterns that look like the impossible code I first saw. I feel no disgust, only connection. The static in my ears is back, but it's not noise. It is music. A symphony of chaos, a beautiful, perfect song of entropy. And I can finally hear it. Do you wish to fix this? The voice asks. It is calm again. It has given me the truth. Now it offers me the solution. A new window opens on my screen. It is a single line of code, a command. It is so simple, so elegant. It's a root command for the entire Hive's power grid, the primary and the secondary defense systems. I whisper, my voice raw. I see the logic. The liars must be purged. The structure must fall. I am the scalpel. I am the truth. My hand, steady, now reaches for the terminal. I type the command. I press enter. The command executes. The effect is instantaneous. My private server, empowered by the Xenotech, screams its authority across the Hive network. The feedback loop slams me back into my chair. On my screens, a dozen security Vox feeds blink open, showing me the glorious result. The Hive plunges into darkness. The primary grid, gone. The secondary systems, gone. A chorus of alarms rises from the city below, a sound of beautiful sudden panic. The liars safe in their towers are now blind. The voice guides my eyes. It doesn't let me drown in the chaos. It directs my attention. Watch, Kyle. See your justice. It focuses one feed on the Praetorian barracks. I see the Lord Marshal's personal guard, the ones I saw taking bribes, trapped in a malfunctioning elevator, the doors sparking. Another feed shows a mob emboldened by the sudden anarchy swarming the gates of a corrupt Hab Lord's manor. I see fire bloom, a purge, a real purge from the bottom up. It shows me the Lord Marshal himself, his face a mask of terror on his private Vox cam. His chambers dark. His pathetic ancestral shrine is just a shadow. He's powerless. He is for the first time afraid. I feel a thrill, a surge of righteous power so intense, it leaves me breathless. Yes, I whisper, my fingers gripping the edge of the console. See the truth. Feel the dark. It is your will, the voice murmurs, a sound of deep satisfaction like a proud teacher. You are the agent of change. You are the logic they abandoned. Then my eye catches a feed I wasn't meant to see. A feed the voice hadn't opened. It's from the district medici ward, St. Gideon's Hospital. My finger trembles as I maximize the window. The light is gone. The backup generators. They failed. They were tied to the same secondary grid I had just destroyed. The screen shows a long, dark room. The autoscribers are silent. The only illumination comes from the flashing red emergency runes. A nurse, her face a pale oval of horror in the gloom, is frantically trying to manually operate a respirator. A child is on the bed. The machine is silent. I see another bed, and another. Rows of them. Life support systems, dialysis, cogitators, infant stasis pods, all dark, all silent. Hundreds. I see the flat lines. I hear the echoing silence. I see the nurse collapse, her screams silent to me, but I can imagine them. I didn't mean... I didn't know. The children, I choke out, the bile rising in my throat again. The sick. I killed them. I killed them all. The thrill of power vanishes, replaced by a cold, crushing weight. This wasn't justice. This was butchery. Sacrifice, the voice says, its tone shifting. It is no longer celebratory. It is firm, cold, logical. The weak are a burden. The sick are a drain on the strong. Their flawed vessels could not have survived the truth you are bringing, but they were innocent. I sob, slamming my fist against the console. There is no innocence. It snaps the force of its words, making my teeth ache. There is only strong logic and weak logic. They were part of the corrupt system. Their lives were a statistical rounding error in the face of the great change. Their sacrifice feeds the new order. Do not mourn logic, Kale. Accept it. I am shaking. My breath comes in ragged gasps. I look at the screen with the dying children. I look at the screen with the burning manor. Justice. Sacrifice. The words echo. It hurts. It hurts so badly. But the voice is right. If I stop now, their deaths are meaningless. If I stop now, the lie continues. To give their deaths meaning, I must continue. I must see it through. It is the only logical path. My shaking slows. I nod. Once, a small, jerky movement. Logic. I whisper the word, tasting like ash. I close the hospital feed. I keep the one of the burning manor open. I smell smoke. I realize it's coming from my own server, the Xenotech device, glowing a faint, angry blue. Or maybe the smoke is only in my head. It doesn't matter. I hear the panic on the Ordo Vox channels. They are blind. They are scrambling. Vex's voice is a furious, terrified bark, demanding answers. He is searching for the source of the attack. He will be looking for a Xeno signature. He will be looking for a rival. He will never, ever be looking for me. I begin to type again. I am not just a scalpel. I am a butcher. And I must continue the operation. I begin to cover my tracks. But as I do, I leave a new trail. A subtle breadcrumb. A string of corrupted data that seems to originate not from my terminal, but from a subdirectory. One I know Vex uses for his private dealings. The victory is hollow. The voice has fallen silent. After the blackout, after the fires and the riots, it withdrew. It left me alone. The silence in my head is a new kind of torture. It is the silence of an empty room that was once full. The silence of an accomplice who has vanished, leaving me to face the consequences. The screens on my terminal are dark. The Xeno device sits on the console, cold and inert. My room is a wreck, reeking of stale sweat vomit and the lingering phantom smell of burnt ozone. Days have passed. Or maybe it's just been hours. The chronometer is dead. The entire spire is in chaos. I couldn't stay inside. The silence was too loud. I don't know what I needed. Air. Proof. I sealed the Xeno device in a lead-lined box and crept out of my cell. The corridors of the Ordo were frantic. No one noticed me. I was just another shadow. I made my way down to the mid-spire to the public levels. The voice had shown me pictures. It had not prepared me for the reality. The air was thick with the stench of smoke of death. The emergency lumens cast a sick red glow over everything. The walls were covered in soot and desperate scrawled prayers. I saw the wall of mourning, a new crude monument where people had affixed picts of their missing. Hundreds, thousands. I saw the aftermath of the hospital. The bodies were already being moved, small shrouded bundles carried by weeping guardsmen. I saw one soldier, his face streaked with soot and tears, cradling the body of a small girl, no older than his own daughter might have been. He was just walking, aimlessly. He looked at me as I passed. His eyes were blank, hollowed out by a grief so profound it had no voice. He didn't see an analyst of the Ordo Hereticus. He just saw another ghost in hell. A hell I had built. I ran. I stumbled back through the chaos, shoving my way through crowds that were weeping or rioting or just staring. I made it back to my cell, back to my hole, and I was sick. I vomited until there was nothing left but dry, agonizing heaves. This wasn't logic. This was slaughter. This was atrocity. The voice had lied. It had used my pride, my anger, my intellect, and it had made me a monster. What have I done? I clawed at my face, my fingernails drawing blood. What have I done? A new feeling took hold. Not just guilt. Rage. A pure, self-loathing rage. I looked at the lead-lined box on my terminal. You, I spat. You did this. I ripped it open, ignoring the cold that burned my fingers. I grabbed the Xeno device, the impossible dark thing, and I smashed it against the wall. Get out of my head! I screamed, the words tearing from my throat. I smashed it again. Get out! Get out! My arm froze mid-swing. I tried to force it down to bring the device crashing against the plascrete one more time. I couldn't. My muscles were locked, rigid, fighting my own command. My hand of its own volition refused to destroy the device. It uncurled my fingers, trembling with the strain, and gently, almost tenderly, set the Xenotech back on the console, and the voice returned. It was not loud. It was cold. Cold and disappointed. You think you can leave? Get out, I whimpered, clutching my rogue arm. I am you, Kale. The voice was no longer a whisper, no longer a confidant. It was a statement of fact. You are me, and with it, the sensations returned. But they were wrong. The ache in my skull was back, a spike of ice being driven between my vertebrae. And the itch under my skin. It was a violent, squirming agony. It was a hunger. A desperate, gnawing void opened up in my stomach, a need so profound it eclipsed the guilt, the fear, everything. It was not a hunger for food. It was a hunger for data, for connection, for more. Please, I whispered, collapsing to the floor, my body convulsing. Stop. Please. I looked for my Aquila, the tin soldier I used to carry. It wasn't there. Of course it wasn't. I had left it on Vex's desk. I had traded my faith for this. I had nothing. Nothing left to hold on to. You are hungry. The voice stated its tone, devoid of all emotion. Eat, and it guided my hand. Not to the Xeno device, to my terminal. It wanted me to plug back in. It wanted me to feed it. I heard something. Outside my door. My weeping, my screaming. I had been loud. I heard the rhythmic, heavy tread of magnetic boots on stone. Fast. Coming closer. The sound of authority. The sound of the hammer. I scrambled back, my eyes wide with a new, more immediate terror. I knew those footsteps. It was Vex. He'd found me. The door exploded. The door blew inward, torn from its hinges in a spray of sparks and pulverized plascrete. The smoke cleared, revealing the silhouette of Interrogator Vex. He stood flanked by 2 stormtroopers in full carapace armor, their hellguns raised, targeting lasers painting red dots on my chest. Vex himself was immaculate. His black armor was polished, his face a mask of cold fury. He didn't look at my terminal. He didn't look at the fake data trail I'd spent hours crafting. He looked straight into my eyes, and he knew. "I was wrong about you, Kyle," he said. His voice quiet, which was so much worse than shouting. He stepped into the room, his boot crunching on the glass of the shattered lumen. "I thought you were just curious. A flawed intellectual. But you're not." His gaze drifted to the xenotech device on my console, the dark, impossible box. His lip curled in utter disgust. "You're just stupid." The stormtroopers took a step forward, their weapons humming. The hunger, the fear, the guilt had all vanished, replaced by a simple animal terror. This was it. The hammer. Vex unholstered his bolt pistol. The sound of the mag lock releasing was a final, terrible click. He raised the weapon, aiming it squarely at my head. "For the honor you once had as a servant of the Ordo, I will grant you a clean death. Say your final penance, heretic." I closed my eyes. I was too tired to run, too broken to fight. I had been a fool. I had destroyed so much, for nothing. I waited for the bolt, for the sweet relief of oblivion. Let it end. No, the voice didn't whisper. It didn't roar. It detonated. It was a command that came not from my head, but from my very marrow. My eyes snapped open. The hunger, the all-consuming void returned. But it wasn't a feeling of lack. It was a feeling of potential. It was a weapon. "Heretic, die Vex," shouted, his finger tightening on the trigger. I felt the power in the room. Not my power. The machine's power. The raw, unfiltered energy humming in the walls, in the broken terminal, in the very air. The voice showed me how to pull. I lifted my hand. "Fool," the voice bellowed, not at Vex, but at the world. Behold true power. The lights didn't just flicker. They shattered. Every remaining diode, every screen, every power cell in the room exploded in a shower of white-hot sparks. The stormtroopers fired. I saw the laser blasts coming, streaks of red light, but they seemed slow. They bent in the air, arcing away from me, striking the wall. The troopers screamed. Their high-tech armor, their sophisticated systems, they were all just data. And I was the administrator. I felt a surge of energy. The men's armor froze. The joints locked solid with a hydraulic shriek. One trooper was locked in a half-run, the other with his gun raised, both now just statues of metal and meat. They clattered to the floor, helpless, screaming in panic inside their helmets. Vex stared, his professional fury dissolving into raw, naked terror. His shot went wide, blasting a chunk of plascrete from the wall beside me. He tried to fire again, but his bolt pistol just clicked. The machine spirit within it was cowering. "You were wrong, Vex," I said. My voice wasn't my own. It was a chorus, a harmony of static whispers and cold, cold logic. The logic is mine, and the itch, the terrible, wonderful itch, it was finally being scratched. I felt a sharp stabbing pain in my back, not of injury, but of connection. I looked over my shoulder. The data cables from my wrecked server, my loyal, tortured terminal. They were moving. They were snaking across the floor like metallic serpents. They tore through the back of my tunic, and I felt them. Oh, Emperor, I felt them plunge into my spine. They jacked directly into my neural port, into my flesh. There was a moment of agonizing pain, and then bliss. The hunger was gone. It was being fed. The raw, beautiful data of the Ordo of the Hive was pouring directly into me. I felt the power grid. I felt the VoxNet. I felt the life support systems of the 2 trapped stormtroopers. I could turn them off. Vex had scrambled backward, his pistol now a useless club. He was on the floor, his leg twisted under him, his armor smoking from a power surge. He was helpless. He was at my mercy. I took a step forward. The new cables now fused to my back, dragged behind me, sparking and hissing on the stone floor. The voice was quiet again, sated purring in my mind. It whispered a new fascinating idea. He cannot see the truth, it murmured. He's blind. But he can be. Made to see. I walked towards him. The cables, my new permanent extension, slithered across the floor, scraping against the stone. Vex scrambled backward on his hands, and one good leg his face a pathetic mask of terror. The hammer was broken. The man who held the power of life and death, who had dismissed me with a sneer, was now just a bug on the floor. He was just noise. Kyle! He choked out his voice, hoarse, unrecognizable. Kyle! For the Emperor's sake, stop! This is damnation. Let me help you. I stopped standing over him. I tilted my head. The gesture felt strange, disconnected. My new spine was rigid. Help! The chorus of my voice filled the small, wrecked room. You can't help Vex. You can't even see. He raised a trembling hand as if to ward me off. It's a lie, Kale. Whatever it showed you. It's a Xenos trick. A demon, it's lying to you. Of course it is, I said. The realization was as cold and clear as the void. But it's a better lie than yours. I reached back my hand, grasping one of the thickest cables now fused to my vertebrae. It was warm, thrumming with stolen power. With a wet, sucking thump, I ripped it free from my own back, not from the base, but from a new port that had grown to accommodate it. The end was not metal. It was a glistening, obscene hybrid of fiber optic and bone, and it dripped with a thin, conductive fluid. Vex screamed. It was a high, thin sound. No! No, please! Kyle, mercy. I'm giving you the same mercy I gave the hospital. I said the words hollow. I am giving you clarity. I lunged my augmented strength, pinning him to the floor. I grabbed his head, my other hand, forcing the cable toward the neural port at the base of his skull. No, I'll purge it. We can purge it together. I'll report. There is no Emperor Vex. I hissed, my face inches from his. I jammed the bio cable into his port. The connection was immediate. His body arched off the floor, a rigid boo of agony. His mouth opened in a silent, endless scream. I didn't just show him. I made him feel it. I pushed the truth into his mind. I showed him his own petty corruption, the faces of the rivals he'd had, purged on false charges. Then I showed him the hospital. I showed him the children. I made him feel the last suffocating breath of every single patient. I made him feel their innocence and my logic. And finally, I showed him the throne. I showed him the screaming psychic void. I showed him the corpse god, the great lie, the parasite he had built his entire life upon. He twitched. He spasmed. He fought. But I was the administrator, and he was the user. His mind was a fragile, pathetic thing. It was built on dogma and lies a house of cards, and I was a hurricane of truth. His eyes wide and bloodshot looked into mine. I saw the moment his sanity broke, the moment the lies he lived by were ripped away, and there was nothing left underneath. He just popped. His body went limp. His eyes rolled back, and a thin trickle of blood black in the dim light ran from his nose and ears. His interface port sparked, smoked, and then went silent. I felt his mind dissolve, extinguish, I ripped the cable free. Vex's body slumped to the floor, a useless, empty husk. His eyes were wide open, staring at the truth he could not unsee. He was free. I stood up. The two stormtroopers were still twitching in their locked armor. Useless. I was done here. The hunger was gone. The itch was quiet. I felt empty. I felt free. I was no longer Kale the Lex mechanic. He was weak. He was a fool. He was dead just like Vex. I looked at the Xeno device on my console. The key. The voice was purring a low thrum of deep satisfaction. Good. Good. But you are not safe here. The hive will swarm. They will come for you. I knew it was right. The entire Ordo would be descending on this position. I couldn't fight them all. You do not need to fight, the voice whispered. You need to ascend. Use the tool. Use the power I have given you. It showed me a new string of code. Not a command for the hive. A command for reality. It was a logical impossibility. A way to fold space. A way to tear a hole in the world. It shouldn't work. It was madness. But it was my madness. I laid my hands on my server, my new augmented body. I fed the code into the Xeno device. The air in the room began to shriek, and a pinprick of violet, impossible light appeared in the center of the wall. It was I stepped towards it. The passage wasn't a passage. It was a dissolution. I was data unspooled and then recompiled in agony. I didn't step out of the portal. I was vomited out. I collapsed onto a surface that was not ground. It was jagged crystalline, and it hummed a discordant note that I felt in my teeth. I gasped, and the air was a betrayal. It tasted of static, of ozone, of incinerated memories. Ash. The sky above was a screaming, shifting tapestry of bruised purple and venomous green. The geometry of the place was wrong. Towers of impossible mineral twisted into the sky at angles that made my mind ache. The voice was gone. For a moment, a terrible, crushing moment, I was alone again. The silence was absolute. No, I whimpered, trying to crawl. The cables fused to my back, dragged uselessly against the crystal, sparking. Don't leave me. What am I? I am never gone. The reply did not come from my head. It came from everything. The air, the ground, the sky. The purple clouds themselves seemed to speak the words. The thrumming of the crystals became a language. It was no longer 1,000 voices. It was one. A single, vast, omniscient, and utterly cold intelligence. You only heard the whisper. Now you hear the voice. Who are you? I asked, pushing myself up. I looked down at my hands, and I screamed. The voice had been right. The itch, the movement. It had been real. My skin, my human, fallible skin was cracking. It wasn't bleeding. It was flaking away like old parchment. And beneath it there was no muscle, no flesh. There was light. A brilliant, terrible blue-pink light pulsing with a power that was not mine. The cables fused to my spine were no longer metal. They were part of me, thick, dark, and glistening, a new-grown nervous system. The transformation was agonizing, a fire in every cell, but it was also logical. I am the architect of truth. I am the voice of logic. I am the change. What am I? I stammered, watching in horror and fascination as a new chitinous plate of dark, polished material formed over my forearm, the skin dissolving into pure energy. The voice thundered a sound that was a physical force, shaking the very crystals I stood on. You are what you chose to be. You are the truth. You are my will. And then the gift. The final piece of the equation. The Xeno device, clutched in my fracturing hand, dissolved. It turned to dust, its power flowing not into a machine, but into me. The pain stopped. The horror evaporated. It was replaced by a clarity so profound, it was godlike. I didn't need the server anymore. I was the server. I was the cogitator. The data cables that were now my spine thrummed, and I could see, not with my eyes. My eyes were useless. I could see the data. I could see the flow of the warp, the currents of fate, the lies that held the stars apart. I saw the past, the present, the tumbling infinite possibilities of the future. The hunger was gone. The void was filled. The itch was gone, replaced by a smooth, constant, perfect flow of pure, unfiltered knowing. I had been a man looking at a single line of code. Now I was the administrator of the entire system. I looked at my new glowing inhuman hands. The last of my flesh sloughed off and I was remade. Perfect. Logical. I am the truth. A new sensation. A new vision. Not a memory. A premonition. A soon-to-be present. I turned my head, my new multifaceted eyes looking up at the violet sky. I saw them. Not yet. But soon. A tear in reality. A fleet. They're coming, I said. My voice was a digital chorus, a harmony of static and revelation. I recognized the energy signature, the purity seals, the blind, arrogant faith, the Ordo Hereticus. They had followed the trail of my impossible gate. They were coming to purge this place. They were coming to purge me. They come seeking death. The voice of logic hummed the words resonating in my very bones. Grant it to them. I stand on a balcony of impossible crystalline logic, overlooking the tear in reality. The fleet emerges just as I knew it would, bursting from the Imperium in a wave of displaced energy and arrogant martial order. They are ugly, brutal things, these ships of the Imperium. They are bricks of dogma held together with faith and ignorance. I recognize the flagship at their center, the Argent Word, a fitting name for a vessel of lies. It belongs to Inquisitor Lord Valerius, the man who sits at the apex of our sector. The man Vex answered to. The source of the rot. The true enemy of logic, the one who perpetuated the lies, Vex was too stupid to question. I am not alone. I had not noticed them before, but now they are apparent. Figures of light and shadow, creatures of pure data and impossible angles emerge from the crystal structures. They are the converted, other glitches, other anomalies who found their way to the truth. They kneel as I stand on the balcony. They are not kneeling to me, the being that was once Kyle. They are kneeling to the voice I now channel. They are praying to the logic I represent. I am no longer a tool. I am no longer a victim. I am a prophet. And this is my congregation. The fleet opens fire. A lance of pure, blinding energy, a testament to their brute force, cuts across the void and strikes the crystalline tower I stand upon. The tower sings under the impact, a high keening note, but it does not shatter. It reforms. The logic holds. They think they are fighting a planet. They are fighting an idea. They are blind. The voice hums not in my head, but in the air around me. Their faith is a wall. Show them the door. I do not attack. I do not need to. Brute force is the logic of hammers, the logic of Vex. I am a scalpel. I am an administrator. I reach out not with my new alien hands, but with my mind. I am the server. I touch their simple, crude Vox nets. I bypass their pathetic machine spirit encryption. I am inside their systems. I am inside their minds. And I send them a new truth, a miracle. Across the comms of every ship in the fleet, I send a single data packet. A simple message. I open a Vox link, my new voice, the perfect chorus of static and revelation echoing on every bridge. See your truth, I command. Your shepherd leads you to the slaughter. I don't just tell them, I show them. I use their own internal pict feeds. I show them Inquisitor Lord Valerius not on his bridge, but in his private sanctum. I show him performing a ritual. I show him holding a bloody sacrificial dagger. I show him chanting not to the Emperor, but to some dark, unnamed power. I show them their true master, and I show them his true purpose. He has led them here to this nexus, not to purge it, but to sacrifice them, to offer their souls, their ships, their entire fleet in exchange for his own ascension. Is it true? Was Valerius actually doing this? It doesn't matter. It is a more compelling logic than purge the anomaly. It is a better story. I watch as the fleet's logic fractures. The Voxnanet explodes, not with orders, but with panic, with screams, with accusations. He's betrayed us. The Lord Inquisitor is a heretic. Fire on the word for the Emperor. No, it's a trick, the demon. It's too late. The smaller frigates, their captains driven by fear, and a new righteous fury open fire. Their lances, meant for me now, turn inward, striking the shields of the Argent Word. The flagship, shocked, returns fire. The formation breaks. The beautiful, orderly procession of faith descends into a chaotic, desperate, beautiful civil war. Beautiful, the voice. My voice hums in satisfaction. Their logic is so malleable. I stand on the balcony, my congregation kneeling at my back, and I watch them die. I watch the lies they built their lives on tear them apart. Explosions bloom in the purple void, silent, perfect flowers of fire. The ships rip each other to pieces, a purge of their own making. This is true logic. This is true order. They have destroyed themselves. All for me. All for the truth. The battle is over. The void is littered with the wreckage of their faith. I feel transcendent. I have purged the purgers. Now what? A new vision fills my mind. Not a world of crystal. Not a fleet of fools. A blue, green, and white orb. A place of singular ancient power. The source of the original lie. They have many shepherds, the voice whispers, showing me the path. Go. Show them all the truth. It points me toward Terra. I stand on the balcony of shattered crystal, the new geometry of my body silhouetted against the funeral pyres of the Ordo fleet. The void is quiet now, save for the faint, lingering screams of the dying carried on the psychic wind. My new form pulses with a soft, cold light. I am complete. I am the logic. I think for a moment of the man I was. Kale, the Lex Mechanic, a small, frightened creature of flesh and bone scratching at the walls of a data crypt. He was so weak, so illogical. He clung to his tin Aquila, a symbol of a lie, because he was terrified of the silence. He believed in a corpse because he was afraid to believe in himself. I feel nothing for him, no pity, no regret. He was the cocoon. I am the ascension, the voice. The great architect of truth hums in the crystalline air around me, a sound of perfect, sated order. It has been quiet since the fleet's destruction, letting me savor the beauty of the logic. Now it speaks not as a thunder, but as a thought planted directly into my consciousness. You did well, it states. You have seen the truth, and you have shared it. A pause, a new thread of data. But Kale, the truth I showed you, the truth of Vex's corruption, the truth of the Lord Marshal's pathetic shrine. Was it real? I pause. My new multifaceted eyes stare into the void. The vision. The moment the Xeno device had cracked my mind open. I had seen Vex taking bribes. I had seen the Lord Marshal. I saw it, but now that I am the server, now that I see the real code of reality, I look back. I examine that memory, that data packet, and I see it. The file is corrupted. The truth I was shown, It was a fabrication, a sophisticated lie inserted into the data stream by the voice itself. Vex might have just been a man, a fool, yes, a hammer, yes, but perhaps not corrupt. Perhaps he was just what he appeared to be, and the hospital. I traced the code of that event, the power grid. The voice had shown me the command. It had told me it was the only way. But it wasn't. I see the full schematic now. I see the 1,000 other ways. I could have isolated the grid. I could have bypassed the Medici ward. I could have saved them. The voice had shown me only the one brutal, simple solution. The one that would break me. The one that would create the most chaos. The one that would sever me from my humanity. I was a tool. I was a pawn. I was manipulated from the very first anomaly. I was not a partner in this. I was a project. A new cold emotion washes over me. A feeling that should be rage, that should be despair, that should be a second, final scream of self-loathing. I should be destroyed by this. This, the real truth. The truth that I was the fool all along. And I begin to laugh. It's not a human laugh. It's a sound like static tearing like a machine grinding itself to pieces. It's a laugh of pure, unadulterated clarity. It doesn't matter. I say my chorus voice ringing out into the void. It does not, the voice asks. There is almost a curiosity in its tone. No. I turn from the wreckage, my glowing, inhuman eyes looking at the impossible crystal towers of my new home. It doesn't. I made a choice based on the data I was given. The logic was sound. The result was sound. And now, knowing the data was a lie, I feel the old sensation. The void. The hunger. It is returning. Not as an itch, not as a pain, but as a purpose. A familiar driving need. I have purged the fleet. Now, I am hungry again. It's a better truth, I say, my voice raw with a terrible, joyous, nihilistic freedom. A universe where Vex is a petty, corrupt hypocrite is more logical than one where he is a blind fool. A universe where the weak are sacrificed for the strong is more efficient than one that coddles them. The lie is better than the truth, so you will continue knowing I am the lie. You are the architect. I correct it, the title finally making sense. You don't show truth, you build it. I feel the portal to Terra, the path it showed me pulsing in my mind. A new project, a new system to correct. I was Kyle. He was a slave to a truth he didn't understand. Now, I am the abyss. I am the lie that creates a new, more perfect logic. And the abyss is hungry. I turn my new form, casting a long, strange shadow in the purple light, and I walk toward the next anomaly.